Good morning and welcome to KZSC News, local news from the Monterey Bay. On today's episode, state education funding is threatened. Wildlife booms after winter rains. Federal immigration expands. Local housing expansions meet opposition. Controversy over expanded library services. Transportation infrastructure in Santa Cruz. The Dyke March and Pride. And California Democrats clash over healthcare bill.
California's federal funding for K-12 education would shrink from about $4 billion to $3.64 billion in 2017 to 2018 under the Trump administration's proposed budget. Since the presidential budget usually only acts as a wish list, it is unknown how much of the document put out will be passed by Congress. For the federal work-study program, California would receive just $56 million in 2017 to 2018 under the budget. California would also lose $86.8 million in tuition assistance for low-income students.
After an intense winter of heavy rainfall, flooding, and mudslides, the resulting effects on wildlife vary greatly. The puddles provided Santa Cruz long-toed salamanders, California tiger salamanders, and California red-legged frogs with places to lay their eggs. All federally listed endangered species, they lacked moisture in recent years in the Elkhorn Slough National Estuarine Research Reserve. They need water that lasts until summer for eggs to become tadpoles and eventually adults. This year, they have been reported as breeding successfully. Deer and elk are growing healthy with the abundant vegetation, but are also at higher risk of being stalked by mountain lions who have taller and thicker grass to hide behind. With this grass also comes a rise in ticks and other small bugs. Cabbage butterflies and painted lady butterflies, on the other hand, have suffered with the rain. Many of the eggs, caterpillars, and pupae drowned in the flooded parts of the Sacramento Valley. And while the flooding also hurt strawberry fields, the late set of strawberries are bigger and tastier.
Republicans in the House of Representatives are moving forward with upping immigration legislation that would push for more influence on sanctuary cities, hire more armed immigrant officers, and comply more sternly with Trump's plans. The bill passed with all 19 Republicans being for it, with 13 Democrats being against it. Under the bill, being an undocumented citizen in the U.S. would go from a civil violation to a criminal misdemeanor. Jose Magana Salgado says that this bill would be one of the most anti-immigrant bills in the history of the nation.
The City of Santa Cruz Corridor Plan has met resistance from the newly formed group Save Santa Cruz. The group made its first appearance at the third planning commission held by the city to discuss details of the plan. The Corridor Plan identifies Soquel, Ocean, Mission, and Water Streets as zoned for mixed-use development that is both for commercial and private use. This rezoning proposes additional buildings and a height increase following certain criteria. The city claims that this development will strengthen Santa Cruz as a place to do business. The Save Santa Cruz group says this will lead to an overbuilding crisis that will raise already exorbitant real estate costs, and the city should allow for ample time to discuss a strategy for making housing more affordable before changing the zoning code. Other concerns listed in a letter to the commission include increased traffic, increased residential cost, changes to the character of Santa Cruz, and strains on public transportation and other infrastructure. The next planning meeting is to be announced this summer.
Beginning this Friday, the 10-branch Santa Cruz Public Libraries will be extending its operating hours, and at the same time, library leaders are attempting to fine-tune the balance at its downtown Santa Cruz branch between homeless patrons, employees and neighbors, and limited access to the library's grounds. Director Susan Nemitz told the Santa Cruz City Council on May 24th that officials are working on campus environment rules to change the atmosphere of the library as a homeless day center and instead just a regular library. The library's board of directors recently approved a series of new behavioral rules for patron use and employees that they have to go through 340 hours of intensive mental health training. At the board's May 4th meeting, the group considered installing new fencing at the downtown Santa Cruz branch that would lock the walkway between the front entrance and back parking lot after hours. The library will start sharing similar enforcement rules as the neighboring City Hall grounds. Nemitz said she believes the public is concerned about violent interactions with the homeless, mental health crisis, and drug overdoses outside the library, rather than a separate population of patrons without a home who are just at the library to work on their resumes.
Santa Cruz County is beginning to decide whether to expand its train service into a passenger system. They're deciding through a study called the Unified Corridor Investment Study, which has already partly begun with a survey open to all county residents. The survey has had a high number of responses, but below ideal from youth and South County residents. The Unified Corridor Investment Study will look into the corridors of Highway 1, Soquel, and Freedom Boulevard. The Unified Corridor Investment Study is meant to help plan how the commission involved, the Santa Cruz County Regional Transport Commission, will invest in this project and to optimize usage of the routes as well as sustainability. The study is also meant to assess costs and where funding for the projects would come from. On June 15th, commissioners will discuss different combinations of projects to pursue. One of the other potential projects is a carpool lane on Highway 1 from Aptos to Santa Cruz.
Closet Free Radio is the longest-running LGBTQ affairs radio show in the world, found only here at KZSC. On Monday, May 22nd, Dina Izzo spoke with them about the upcoming Pride Festival in Santa Cruz.
Sunday, June
4th. Yeah, the parade steps off at 11, and we flow right on into the festival. And for those folks who are not huge paraders but really like the festival part, the festival opens also around 11. Our vendors will be there. Our food truck should be there. We will be ready to receive you, and we're really, really honored to be able to continue this proud tradition of producing Santa Cruz Pride.
Then, on May 15th, Closet Free Radio spoke with Venus and Melissa Bernstein, who are organizers for the Santa Cruz Dyke and Trans March.
And the history of the Dyke March originally was all about being really radical. It was really fierce and angry. It was really a harder time back then, but we've really backstepped. So a lot of us are re-embracing that, but also making that fit into today's culture, because we don't want to be that fierce. We actually want to be really loving, and we want to be pacifist, but we also need to get the world's attention.
That's the most important piece, isn't it? To make your insides and outsides match, to have the freedom to be congruent and authentic. Dyke Trans March is an opportunity to call in your crew. The year goes so fast and everybody just gets super busy. But, call your queer friends and allies and whatever and help us to build this queer culture. And if there was ever a time to hit the streets, really, I hope that you come to Santa Cruz Dyke Trans March on Saturday.
For more information about the Santa Cruz Pride Festival or the Dyke Trans March, go to queercruz.com. That is queer, Queer, cruise, CRUZ.com. To keep up to date with LGBTQ issues facing both our local communities and communities abroad, tune in Mondays at 7 p.m. to Closet Free Radio. State Senate Bill 562, backed by the California Nurses Association, would turn California's healthcare into a single-payer system, whereby everyone's tax dollars are used to provide statewide universal healthcare. The bill has been extremely contentious among state Democrats, with progressive elements of the party threatening to challenge incumbents in the primary if they do not support Senate Bill 562. The California Senate Committee report found that the $400 billion bill would require the state to raise an additional $200 billion annually, more than the entire $124 billion general budget fund. No tax provisions are present in the bill, making its funding dubious. However, a study sponsored and partially funded by the California Nurses Association found that the bill would cost only $331 billion and would save the average Californian money on health care. The study operates on the assumption that tax increases will be used to fill in the missing costs. The bill could be voted on as soon as this week.
I'm Sydney Fishman.
I'm Gina Ranieri.
I'm Frances Maurer.
I'm Maelin Rose.
Jordan Penland contributed these stories on immigration and school funding. And I'm Dyke Goering. Thank you for tuning in to KZSC News, local news from the Monterey Bay.